Hello and welcome to this first look exploring sessions. We are looking today at the first few pageants of the York cycle. Yes, we're doing one of your pucker mystery cycles, not one of these confused, editorially confusing, compromised artifacts like N-Town. This is a document from the mid 15th century that, in theory, puts in time a version of this this cycle from York, and gives it to us relatively straight. There are the odd lacuna in the text, but it is on the whole an artifact that gives us a pretty good idea what's going on in York. And we are today going to be working through our first 7 plays of the sequence, most of which are relatively short, hence the fact that we can get through 7 plays all in one go. Yeah, we're going to discover what we find. We're going to stumble over a lot of original spelling and word shifts in meanings and sounds and any errors that I may have put into the text when modernising things. So we're going to see what comes out of this particular set of text, and we hope to be doing these on a semi-regular basis over the next few months, so that we hopefully will complete the York cycle in relatively swift time. Today, who's reading what? Well, who's God today? Today, Deus is...
Steve Longstaffe, scholar of early modern drama, based on the wrong side of the Pennines, bringing confusion and lacunae.
And reading Lucifer / Satan, depending on which speech prefix is occurring, and also Brewbarret later on is...
My name is Alexandra. Apologies in advance if my halo falls off.
It's a saying I hear every day at work. Reading Cherabyn, Adam, and Abel is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I've had the kind of day where I actually have to write those down because I'm going to forget in about 30 seconds as soon as I stop speaking.
Excellent. Reading Seraphim, Eve, and Cain today is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer in London. Confusion and Lacunae is the name of my new band.
Reading a bad angel, but also a good angel later on in later plays is...
Rachael, Nicole, actor, New Jersey. I listened to Lacuna Coil when I was in high school.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading the occasional stage direction when they every so often pop up. But they don't very often. So we're going to read each play in sequence and stop and have a little chat in between each. So we will go forward and look at the fall of Lucifer, or the fall of the angels, depending on how people want to describe it. It's a pageant sponsored by the Barkers, and it has various fun and exciting people in it. We start off with the arrival of God.
Ego sum alpha et omega, vita via veritas primus et novissimus. I'm gracious and great, God without and beginning. I am maker unmade, all might is in me. I am life and way unto wealth winning. I am foremost and first, as I bid shall it be. My blessing of blee shall be blending and heldened, pro harm to be hidden. My body in bliss I abidend, unended, without any ending. Since I am maker unmade, and most is of might, and I shall be endless, and naught is but I, unto my dignity dear shall duly be dight, a place full of plenty to my pleasing apply. And therewithal also will I have wrought many divers doings bideen, which work shall meekly contain, and all shall be made even of naught. But only the worthly work of my will in my spirit shall inspire the might of me. And in the first, faithfully my thought to fulfill, vainly in my blessing I bid it here be, a bliss all beildened about me. In the welcome bliss I bid at be here, 9 orders of angels full clear, in loving I lasten that lout me.
And then the angels all sing Te Deum laudamus et Dominum confitemur.
Here underneath me now an exile I Nevern. Isle shall be earth, now all be at once, earth holy and hell. This highest be heaven, and that well shall one in this wones. This grant I you, ministers mine, to ours ye stable in thought, and also to them that are naught, be put to my prison at pine. Of all the mights I have made, most next after me, I make thee also master and mirror of my might. I build thee here vainly in bliss for to be. I name thee for Lucifer, also bearer of light. Nothing here shall thee be derrend. In this bliss shall be your building, and have all wealth in your wielding. I will see a buxomly baron.
And then the angels sing Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus Dominus Deus Sabaoth.
Ah, merciful Maker, full mickle is thy might that all this work at a word worthily hath wrought. I loved be that lovely Lord of his light, that us thus mighty has made, that now was right naught. In bliss for to bide at his blessing, I lastened in love let us lout him. At build us thus vainly about him, of mirth nevermore to have missing.
All the mirth that is made is marked in me. The beams of my brighthood are burnand so bright, and I so seemly in sight myself now I see, for like a lord am I left to lend in this light. More fairer by far than my fares, in me is no point that may pair. I feel me fetus and fair, my power is passand my peers.
Lord, with the last and love, we love thee alone. Thou mightful maker that marked us and made us and brought us in this worthily to wone in this wones. There never feeling of filth may fill us nor fade us. Nor all bliss is here builded and about us. Two whiles we are stable in thought, in the worship of him that us wrought. Of here never thar us more doubt us.
Oh, what am I, fetus and fair and figured full fit? The form of all fair head upon me is fest. All wealth in my wield is, I wot by my wit. The beams of my bright head are bigged with the best. My showing is shimmerand and shinand. So bigly to bliss am I brought, me needs for to know me right not. Here shall never pain me be pinned.
With all the wit we wield, we worship thy will, thou glorious God that is ground of all grace. I with steadfast Stephen let us stand still, Lord, to be fed with the food of thy fair face. In life that is leally I lastened, thy dale, O Lord, I daintily dealand, and whoso that food may be feeland, to see thy fair face is not fastened.
Oh, certes, what I am worthily wrought with worship wis, for in a glorious glee my glittering it gleams. I am so mightily made my mirth may not miss. Shall I bide in this bliss through the brightness of beams. Me needs not of noy for to neven, all wealth in my wield have I wieldened. Above yet shall I be beildened, on height in the highest of heaven. There shall I set myself full seemly to sight, to receive my reverence through right of renown. I shall be like unto him that is highest on height. Oh, what I am dear worth and deft! Oh, Deus! All goes down. My might and my main is all murrened. Help, fellows, in faith am I fallen.
From heaven are we healed and on all hand. To woe are we wended, I warrant.
Out, Harrow, helpless, like a hot is here. This is a dungeon of dole that I am to dite. Where is my kind become, so comely and clear? Now am I loathest, alas, that e'er was light. My brightness is blackest and blow now. My bale is aye beaten and brined, that gars one go gowland and gurnand. Out, I well away, I well in you in woe now.
Out, I go wood for woe, my witches all went now. All our food is but filth we find us beforn. We that were builded in bliss and bale are we brent now. Out on thee, Lucifer, lured in, our light hast thou lorn. Thy deeds to this dole now has dight us. To spill us thou was our speeder, for thou was our light and our leader. The highest of heaven had thou hight us.
Well away, woe is me now. Now is it were than it was. Unthrivenly threepy, I said but a thought.
Lured in, thou lost us.
Ye lie. Out, alas, I wist not this woe should be wrought. Out on you, Lurdens, ye smore me in smoke.
This woe hast thou wrought us.
You lie, you lie.
Thou lies, and that shall thou buy. We, Lurden, have at you let to look.
Our Lord, loved be thy name that us this light lent, since Lucifer our leader is lighted so low. For his unbuxomness in bail to be brent, thy right wiseness to reward on row, ilk work after is wrought. Thou, through grace of thy merciful might, the cause I see it in sight, wherefore to bail he's brought.
Those fools for their fair head in fantasies fell, and had main of my might that marked them and made them. For they after their works were in woe shall they well, for some have fallen into filth that evermore shall fade them, and never shall have grace for to grith them. So passant of power them thought them, that they would not me worship that wrought them, for they shall my wrath ever go with them. And all that me worship shall one hear, who wis, for the more forth of my work now I will. Since then their might is for marred that meant all amiss, even to mine own figure this bliss to fulfill, mankind of mould will I make. But first will I form him before all thing that shall him restore, to help that his talent will take. In my first making, to muster my might, since earth is vain and void, and murkness a mel, I bid in my blessing, ye angels, give light to the earth, for it faded when fiends fell. In hell shall never murkness be missened. The murkness, thus name I, for night, the day that call I this light. My afterworks shall they be wisened. And now in my blessing I twin them in two, the night even for the day, so that they meet never, but either in a kind course their gates for to go, both the night and the day does duly your dever. To all I shall work by ye wissing. This day work is done, ilka deal, and all this work likes me right well, and vainly I give it my blessing.
And exit God. Well, exit everyone. That's the end of that particular pageant. Let's move the pageant on to the next station. The choir of angels has joined us briefly to have a little chat about that one. So, Lucifer Falls, mid-speech. Our Deus all goes down. Does God actually ever say, "Don't sit in my chair"? Just a silly question. Just checking.
I think you'll find God actually says, I place you in my chair, or thereabouts. He doesn't call Lucifer a substitute, but he calls him something that is a sort of giving him of power. So it is interesting that what seems to be happening is he gets a little bit and he takes a lot and therefore gets...
Well, it's interesting that in Chester, and I think to a degree in N-Town as well, that there's basically an explicit game of God says, right, I'm a bit tired, so I'm going to go over here now. Nobody sit in my chair. And then Lucifer sits in the chair, and God goes, who's been sitting in my chair, and sends him down to... So it's quite interesting that that's not the dynamic that's going on in this at all. It is, the others are about pride, but this one is more about the sort of general, he's so shiny.
I found the passage Alexandra was talking about, and while none can touch Stephen's rendition, it's worth reading again for... just for emphasis, is, of all the mights I have made, most next after me, I make thee also master and mirror of my might. And then he gives him various powers, but with the condition, I whiles you are buxomly baroned, saying you shall have all wealth in your wielding, while you are obedient to me.
So it's the actions of Lucifer going, oh yeah, I'm great. You don't need that other guy. Look at me, I'm so shiny. Other thoughts? Rachael.
No, I was gonna say that I don't know why, but the part between the bad angel and Lucifer when they start to fight over being thrown down, it's like bear baiting or something in some way. It reminds me of like that type of fight, like they're dogs or something trying to rip each other apart.
Yeah, it's that instant thing that we get with all vices. That left alone, they immediately start fighting each other in enclosed environments. That's the first thing they do. Yeah.
It's like, we'll make a forum just for nerds for this particular game, and like how that goes.
Yes, that was exactly what I was thinking there, yeah. So, the day has begun. The next pageant wagon is wheeling its way towards us. Does anyone have any additional thoughts or questions? Eric, and then Stephen.
I was going to say that... well, obviously, this is, sort of religious in theme, but if you look at it in the context of a monarchy, then it's like sort of, yes, you can fill in my shoes, sort of the person who handles affairs. But obviously, you can't handle anything sort of, you can't take power for yourself, or else, it's a sin.
Stephen?
I'm just wondering about the staging, really, in terms of the levels that are implied. I'm wondering, if hell is on the street, as it were, in front of the pageant, or whether there's, it's envisaged there might be some kind of hell mouth or something, which does turn up in some pageants, the harrowing of hell and so forth. So I'm wondering if, maybe we could have God on top of the pageant, as it were, on the roof or something like that. I'm just thinking about the way in which some of the questions we're asking might be answered by the staging. It could be quite an elaborate symbolic set.
Yes, and that's always that question of heights and differentials between them. There isn't that much indicated in terms of how the mechanics here work, but there might be other data on that, because York has there is other information available on York outside of the actual texts that we might there might be other information we can feed in, which is more a second look element than a first look. Let us wheel the next pageant in, and this is play number 2, creation. We have we got some creation time of of a percentage of the creation, not necessarily all of the creation. You know, God's going to do some creating now, and it is a one-man show. Deus, take it away.
In altissimus habito, in the highest heaven my home have I, eterni mentis et ego, without an end I lastandly. Since I have wrought there world as wide, heaven and air, and earth also, my high Godhead I will not hide, or if some fools befallen me fro, when they are sent with sin of pride, up for to trine my throne unto, in heaven that they might no longer bide, but whitely went to wone in woe. And sin they wrong have wrought, my like is to let them go, to suffer sorrow unsought, sin they have served so. Their miss may never be amended, since they have sent me to forsake. For all their force none shall them find, for to be fiends foul and black. And though that likes with me to lend, and truly tent to me will take, shall one in wealth without an end, and alway winly with me wake. They shall have for their sail solace that never shall slake. This work methinks full well, and more now will I make. Since that this world is ordained even, forth well I publish my power, not by my strength, but my Stephen. A firmament I bid appear. Among the waters, light so leaven, their curses lily for to leer, and that same shall be named heaven, with plants and with clouds clear. The water I will be set to flow both far and near, and then the firmament in midst to set them seer. The firmament shall not move but by a mean, thus will I mean, over all the world to hald and hove, and by thou two waters between. Under the heaven and also above, the waters seerly shall be seen, and so I will my post prove by creatures of kinds clean. This work is to my pay right will, without and ween. Thus cease the second day of my doings bedeen. More subtle works, I say, I shall, for to be set in service here, all the waters, great and small, that under heaven are ordained here, goes together and hold you all, and be a flood festined in fear, so that the earth, both down and dale, in dryness plainly may appear. The dryness land shall be named, both far and near, and then I name the sea, gathering of waters clear. The earth shall foster and forth bring, buxomly, as I will bide, herbs, and also other thing, well for to wax and worthy to weed. Trees also thereon shall spring, with branches and with boughs on breed, with flowers fair on height to hing, and fruit also to fill and feed. And then I will that they of themselves have the seed and matter, that they may be lasting for in lead. And all their matters is in mind, for to be made of mickle might, and to be cast in divers kind, so for to bear Sir Bergen's bright. And when their fruits is fully fined, and fairest seamen unto sight, then the weathers, wet and wind, away I will it wend full white. And of their seed full sun, full soon new roots shall rise upright. The third day thus is done, their deeds are duly dight. Now, since the earth thus ordained is, measured and made by mine assent, greatly for to grow with grace and weddis that soon away went, of my goodness now will I guess, so that my works no harm's hent. 2 lights, one more and one less, to be fest in the firmament. The more light to day full soothly should be sent, the less light alway to the night shall take intent. Their figures fair that forth are fun, thus on seer side serve shade they shall. The more light shall be named the sun. Dooms to waste by down and by dale, herbs and trees that are begun, all shall he govern, great and small. With cold, if they be closed or bun through heat of sun, they shall be hailed. As they have honours in alken wealth to wail, so shall my creatures ever bide without and bale. The sun and the moon on fair manner now grathly gang in your degree. As ye have ta'en your curses clear to serve forth luck, ye be free. For ye shall set the seasons seer kindly to know in ilka country, day fro day, year fro year, by certain signs soothly to see. The heaven shall be overheld with sterns to stand plenty. The fourth day is fulfilled. This work well likes me. Now, sin their works are wrought with wine and funden forth by firth and fell, they see now will I set within whales wickly for to dwell, and other fish to flet with fine, some with scale and some with scale, of divers matters more and mine, in seer manner to make and mell. Some shall be meek and mild, and some both fierce and fell. This well thus will I eat, since I am wit of well. Also, up in the air on high, I bid now that there be ordered for to be fowls, fair and bright, duly in their degree dwellend, with feathers fair to fras their flight, fro steed to steed, where they will stand, and also lately for to light, where some them like is in ilka land. Then fish and fowls, seer kindly are you command, to meng on your manner, both by sea and sand. These matters more yet will I mend, so for to fulfill my forethought, with divers beasts in land to lend, to breed and be with bale forth brought. And with beasts I will be blend, serpents to be seen unsought, and worms upon their wombs shall wend, to one in earth and work to naught. And so it shall be kenned, how all that aim is aught, beginning, midst, and end, I with my word has wrought. For as I bide, but all thing be, and duly done as I will dress, now beasts are set in seer degree, on mould to move, both more and less, and fowls in air, and fish in sea, and beasts on earth of bone and flesh. I bide ye wax forth fair plenty, and greatly grows as I you guess. So multiply ye shall, I forth in fair process. My blessing have ye all. The fifth day ended is.
And thus concludes the text for the Plasterers Guild. Yes, we've got to the fifth day. And in terms of the way the text flows, God will continue talking. And I don't know whether there are explicit separation between these, or whether some of the pageants are allowed to sort of flow into one into the other on the same wagon. You know, that this is just simply the bit of the text that's in charge of a guild. I genuinely don't know how actually York works in pragmatics. I'm sure people out there will be able to tell me such things. We pause here, if for nothing else but to give God a little time to just have a sip of water. Well done, God. It's been busy. He's made a lot of stuff. It's made a lot of stuff. Thoughts on the room? Rachael, and then Stephen.
This is a question. How this one has the, in parentheses, plasterers next to it. And the first has barkers, and then the next one has another thing. What does that mean?
So the each of the pageants are sponsored by a different guild. So like later on in time with the livery companies in London are various effectively trades that sponsor, in that case, their Lord Mayor's show. Here, each individual pageant is sponsored by a trade, a guild. So this was the Plasterers Guild has ultimate responsibility for this text at this particular period in time. Sometimes these things move around and change. I think that's broadly speaking it. Stephen, continuation of that thought, or the thought you had earlier?
Well, a bit of both, really. I think Barker is still in American English, isn't it? As in Fairground Barker, or am I getting them mixed up with British English? A Barker is a carny person.
Yeah, a Barker is the person who stands outside the circus tent saying how great everything is and drumming up business.
Yeah, I don't think it's in British English anymore. But anyway, the point I was going to make really was just to say that when they did the Mysteries in York in 2018, and this was a kind of solo spot by God, I put the link into the chat. The whole point was it was a kind of special effects thing, that when God said, I have done this, then a bit of the pageant, a sort of door would open or something, and you'd see some whales going across or something like that. So it's a kind of ingenuity engine, which seemed to me as good an idea as any as how to do it. That actually the whole point is that this is actually quite dynamic. It's not I'm God over here and the world is somewhere imaginary. It's like I've got basically a model of the world here, and this bit is now going to start working and become visible.
Yeah, and yes, we do have the advantage that there are various versions of many mystery plays available online, and hopefully I will keep up to date to making sure that links to relevant things are in the show notes. Alexandra, I may fail on that point.
I was just going to build on Stephen's point. I think the idea, it sounds very kind of narratory almost, and then this happens and I do this and I make that happen. And I was almost envisaging, wildlife documentary kind of narration, but in this case it is the making of the world, or documentary on the creation of the universe or something like that. So the more I think it is enough for us to understand what's happening to just listen to the words, but the more we can see the majestic wonderfulness of it, the kind of the more impressive those the power of God and the majesty of what he's supposed to represent is. And yes, I love the idea that in I don't know in terms of the mystery cycle and these pageants how that would have been done in historic terms, but if you wanted to do it as a modern production, this would be where you bring out the projection or the layered visual effects. This is where you use the Pepper's ghosts and all that magic. Stage magic, but actual magical magic.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've given God enough of a break. Let's God continue his oration. Liza, did you have a thought before we go back to God?
Just a very quick one. I do like that after every creation day, God expresses the biblical, and God saw that it was good in the most Yorkshire way possible. Just Yorkshire approval.
Excellent. So we go to pageant 3. It's the card makers. We're going to create some people. So Deus, take it away.
In heaven and earth, duly bedeen of 5 days' work, even unto end, I have complete by curses clean. Methink the space of them well spend. In heaven are angels fair and bright, stars and planets their curses to guard. The moon serves unto the night, the sun to light the day also. In earth is trees and grace to spring, beasts and fowls both great and small. Fishes in flood, all other things thrive and have my blessing all. This work is wrought now at my will, but yet I can no beast see that accords by kind and skill, and for my work might worship me. For perfect work nowhere it none, but aught were made that might it yeem. For love made I this world alone, therefore my love shall in it seem. To keep this world, both more and less, A skilful beast then will I make, after my shape and my likeness, the Wilkie shall worship to me take. Of the simplest part of earth that is here, I shall make man. And for this skill, for to abate his aughton cheer, both his great pride and other ill, and also for to have in mind how simple he is at his making, for as feeble I shall him find when he is dead at his ending. For this reason and skill alone, I shall make man like unto me. Rise up, thou earth in blood and bane, in shape of man I command thee. A female shalt thou have to fear. Her shall I make of thy left rib. Alone so shalt thou not be here, without an faithful friend and sib. Take us now here the ghost of life, and receive both your souls of me. The female take thou to thy wife. Adam and Eve, your names shall be.
Ah, Lord, for full mickle is thy might, and that is seen in ilka side. For now is here a joyful sight to see this world so long and wide. Many diverse things now here is of beasts and fowls, both wild and tame. Yet is none made to thy likeness, but we alone. Ah, loved be thy name.
To swilk, Lord, in all degree, be evermore last and loving, that till us swilka dignity hath given before all other thing, and selcouth things may we see here of this ilka world so long and braid, with beasts and fowls so many and sere. Blessed be he that us made.
Ah, blessed Lord, now at thy will, sin we are wrought, vouchsafe to tell, and also say us to until, what shall we do and where to dwell?
For this skill made I you this day, my name to worship I wear. Loves me for thee, and loves me aye, for my making, I ask no more. Both wise and witty shalt thou be, as man that I have made of naught. Lordship in earth then grant I thee, all thing to serve thee that I have wrought. In paradise shall ye same wone, of earthly thing get ye no need. Ill and good both shall ye con, I shall you learn your life to lead.
Ah, Lord, sin we shall do nothing but love thee for thy greatness. We shall obey to thy bidding and fulfill it, both more and less.
His sing seen he has on us set before all other things certain. Him for to love we shall not let, and worship him with might and main.
At heaven and earth first I began, and 6 days wrought or I would rest. My work is ended now at man. All likes me well, but this the best. My blessing have they ever and aye. The 7th day shall my resting be. Thus will I cease, soothly to say, of my doing in this degree. To bliss I shall you bring. Come forth ye two with me. Ye shall life in liking. My blessing with you be. Amen.
And the pageant up sticks and wheels itself away. Ta-da! Here's a man. I like the take here now the ghost of life and receive both your souls of me. That's a really interesting moment. I'm not sure how the parallels of that might be in some of the other texts. I can't remember. But yeah, it's interesting. Little again. These are very, very, very short because they really are passing on the baton. One to the other, to the other, to the other in very, very quick succession. In other pageants that I've come across, they tend to lump some of this material together into one or two, rather than into as few as we have here. Thoughts in the room? Alexandra?
Just a question on the original staging of this, or what we understand of the actual staging of mystery plays like this. Would these pieces all be played sequentially, and the audience would kind of just move from one to the next, or would they be in a delayed time sequence?
So there'd be specific playing places. The carts would move into position, play, and then move on, and then move on, and then move on. That's broadly speaking the way it worked. So the audience could, of course, go wherever they liked. It was the streets of York. They could saunter off. But in theory, you could set up at one specific station, and in theory, the entertainment would come to you.
And also you would get breaks in between, right? So you'd get, say, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of one play, and then you'd have another 40 minutes until the next play arrives, and so on.
Well, you'd get as long as it took for the cart to get there. They have 40-plus pageants to get through, depending on the year.
Right.
So, no, they move on, and they move on fast, or as fast as they can. Because, this is starting, possibly it's still just barely dawn. There might not actually be that much light. Ideally you want to time it so that, let there be light. Oh, good.
Yeah, in Yorkshire, it's
Yeah,
like,
I
let there be rain.
So, there's a timing issue across all of these plays, and, sometimes they didn't necessarily quite make it. Stephen and then Rachael.
Well, I was just going to say that in terms of the routes around York, it would be possible to see the same thing more than once as well, because it's not like a big circuit. They're sort of winding in and out of the streets a little bit, so it would be quite easy. I did this when they did it in York in 2018. I saw the one we've just done. I saw that twice because I liked it. So there is this sort of weird thing as well, and this is happening. Midsummer's Day is a sort of big. It's a big sort of festival day anyway. It's a holy day too. So it's a sort of I don't know. It maybe had something of the fairground about it as well, in that you weren't in one place and it sort of goes past you on rails. You can dip in and out of it and have another go on the dodgems if you want.
And once the day really gets going, of course, all these plays are potentially happening effectively at the same time. So when we have characters mentioning something that hasn't happened yet, as people we've already had a couple of references where we're going, hang on, it's a bit early to be talking about the crucifixion, or swearing by Christ or whatever. But hypothetically, it might literally be happening on the other side of the town, depending on where the carts have got to and how many times they performed.
And for things like music as well, in a sense, it's sort of carnival floats is another good way of thinking about it. So, I mean, I remember being in one, and sort of 100 yards away, there was another one going on. It was Christ being crucified or something like that. And so you'd hear these sort of, knock, 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 agonized groans or stuff while you were trying to do something else. So it's a really immersive sort of fun thing to be part of, just in theatrical terms, I think.
And there are other things I can say. Well, I'm sure it will come up in the future. Rachael, we've taken a long time to get to.
No, some of my questions from what Stephen said were answered. I guess for each of these plays, there's a different set of actors playing each of these little bits, and then also just what is the occasion that these were put on, and like what's the route? Was there a designated route, like with the Lord Mayor's show, or?
There is. I mean, I don't know whether the route adjusted. And these things happen, of course, over several hundred years, so there are changes and adjustments. But broadly speaking, I think York sticks with Corpus Christi, which is a movable feast, depending on positioning of where Easter is. It specifically is after Easter by X number of weeks or something along those lines. I can't remember off the top of my head. It moves about. This year it's in June, I think. So it's sort of, broadly speaking, summary. And in theory, all these plays, this is the time when you're supposed to be doing this kind of play. In practice, various different cities and towns would do them whenever they liked, really. It's not as monolithic as people like to think. But York is sort of the gold standard of it happening at Corpus Christi on pageant wagons that move around the city around a specific route, which I'm sure we'll go into more in the future. Very briefly, because we do need to move on, Rachel.
No, maybe somebody could answer it here or in chat, but what is Corpus Christi? Because I just know it as a town in Texas or something.
It's a feast day, specifically to celebrate the actual taking of the host, the body of Christ. That whole concept, which sometimes gets somewhat lost in some of the other festal days. I think did I really pass that badly? Liza, please fill me in.
If it makes you feel better, Rachel, I just had to Google to find out when it was, but it's 60 days after Easter or the nearest Sunday to that.
So it moves with Easter. So
this year it's on June 3rd.
Yeah. I checked that because I was sort of going, should we do our own Corpus Christi? No, it's too
I had it confused with Whitsunday, which is when the Leipzig Goth Festival in happier times would happen.
Yeah. Well, Whitsun is where Chester ended up putting their Corpus Christi pageants, because of course you also have in lots of cities, Stephen was talking about floats, effectively a series of floats with tableaus of all the Bible stories as well, and the two could end up in competition and be sharing the same day and resources. So they would say, well, we'll do that on Corpus Christi, and then we'll have the pageants on another day. And that happened. I think that's basically what happened in Chester. I could be wrong. I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to step outside of what I should be saying because I haven't prepped things. So
this is all really interesting, though.
I'm hoping it's true. That's my worry. I'm hoping that I'm not massively overstepping the bounds of accuracy, which is not what we're here to do. We're here to just find out some stuff about how these plays function. We're going to run the next two. I'll mark where the gap between them runs, but I'll let the action, broadly speaking, be continuous before we pause and continue our chattage. So we're going to go into play 4, which is the Fullers pageant, and we're going to have some tree-based activity, I think.
Adam and Eve, this is the place that I have grant you of my grace to have your wanting in. Herbs, spice, fruit on tree, beasts, fowls, all that ye see shall bow to you, more and mine. This place I paradise. Here shall your joys begin, and if that ye be wise, from this there ye never twin. All your will here shall ye have, liking for to eat or save, fish, fowl, or fee, and for to take at your own will all other creatures also their till. Your subjects shall they be. Adam, of more and less lordship in earth here grant I thee. This place that worthy is, keep it in honesty. Look that ye em it wittily, all other creatures shall multiply, ilk one in tender hour. Look that ye both save and set, herbs and trees, for nothing let, so that ye may endure to sustain beast and man, and fuel of ilky stature. Dwell here, if that ye can. This shall be your endow.
O Lord, loved be thy name, for now is this joyful hame that thou hast brought us to, full of mirth and souls fought, herbs and trees, fruit on haw, with spices many one who. Lo, Eve, now we are brought both unto rest and row. We need to take no thought, but look I well to do.
Loving be I to such a lord, to us has given so great reward to govern both great and small, and made us after his own rede among these mirths all. Here's a joyful sight where that we wone in shall. We love thee most of might, great God that we on call.
Love my name with good intent, and hearken to my commandment, and do my bidding buxomly. All the fruit in paradise, take thee of your best wise, and make you right merry. The tree of good and ill, what time you eats of this, thou speeds thyself to spill and be brought out of bliss. All things is made, man, for thy prow, all creatures shall to thee bow, that here is made earthly. In earth I make thee lord of all, and beast unto thee shall be thrall. Thy kind shall multiply. Therefore, this tree alone, Adam, this out take I. The fruit of it, nay none. For an ye do, then shall ye die.
Alas, Lord, that we should do so ill. Thy blessed bidding we shall fulfill, both in thought and deed. We shall know nay this tree, nor the bough, nor yet the fruit that thereon groweth, therewith our flesh to feed.
We shall do thy bidding. We have none other need. This fruit full still shall hang, Lord, that thou hast forbid.
Look that ye do as ye have said. For all that there is, hold you apaid. For here is wealth at will. This tree that bears the fruit of life, look neither thou nor Eve thy wife, lay ye no hands thereto. For why, it is known, both of good and ill, this fruit but ye let hang, ye speed yourself to spill. For thee, this tree that I outtake, now keep it greatly for my sake, that nothing nae it near. All other at your will shall be. I outtake nothing but this tree to feed you with in fear. Here shall ye lade your life with dainties that is dear. Adam and thy wife, my blessing have ye here.
And that is the end of the pageant of the Fullers. We'll run straight into the Coopers and play number 5. We could call it The Fall, if we like. The Fall of Man is a potential title we could give it. And enter Satan.
For woe, my wit is in a weir that moves me mickle in my mind. The Godhead that I saw so clear and perceived that he should take kind of a degree that he had wrought, and I designed that angel kind should it not be. And we were fair and bright, therefore methought that he the kind of us ta'en might, and thereat detained me. The kind of man he thought to take, and thereat had I great envy, but he has made to him a make, and hard to her I will me hie, that ready way that purpose prove to put it by, and fand to pike fro him that pray. My travail were well set, might I him so betray, his liking for to let, and soon I shall essay. In a worm likeness will I wend, and found to feign aloud, let's see. Eve?
Who is there?
I, a friend. And for thy guide is the coming I hither sought. Of all the fruit that ye see hing in paradise, why eat ye naught?
Oh, we may of them ill gain take all that us good thought, save a tree is outta'en would do harm to nae it aught.
And why that tree, that would I wit, any more than all other by?
For our Lord God forbids us it, the fruit thereof, Adam nor I to nigh it near. And if we did, we both should die, he said, and cease our solace seer.
Yea, Eve, to me take tent. Take heed, and thou shalt hear what that the matter meant he moved on that manner. To eat thereof he you defend, I know it well, this was his skill, because he would none other kend these great virtues that longs theretil. For wilt thou see, who eats the fruit of good and ill shall have knowing as well as he.
Why, what kin thing art thou that tells this tale to me?
That wots well how that ye may worshipped be.
What worship should we win thereby? To eat thereof it needeth us not. We have lordship to make mastery of all thing that in earth is wrought.
Woman, do wait, to great estate ye may be brought, and ye will do as I shall say.
To do is us full loath that should our God mispay.
Nay, certes, it is no ways, eat it safely ye may, for peril right there none in lies, but worship, and a great winning, for right as God ye shall be wise, and peer to him in all kind thing. Aye, God shall ye be, of ill and good to have knowing, for to be as wise as he.
Is this sooth that thou sayest?
Yea, why trust thou not me? I would be no kin's ways, tell naught but truth to thee.
Then will I to thy teaching trust, and fang this fruit unto our food.
And she takes the fruit from him. She accepts the fruit.
Bite on boldly, be not abashed, and bear Adam to amend his mode, and eke his bliss.
Then Satan recedes.
Adam, have here a fruit full good.
Alas, woman, why took thou this? Our Lord commanded us both to tend the tree of his. Thy work will make him wroth. Alas, thou hast done amiss.
Nay, Adam, grieve thee not at it, and I will say the reason why. A worm has done me for to wit, we shall be as gods, thou and I, if that we eat here of this tree. Adam, for thy let not that worship for to get, for we shall be as wise as God that is so great and as mickle of price, for thy eat of this meat.
To eat it would I not eschew, might I be sure in thy saying.
Bite on boldly, for it is true. We shall be gods and know all thing.
To win that name I shall taste it at thy teaching.
He accepts and eats.
Alas, what have I done for shame? Ill counsel will worth thee, that if thou art to blame, to this entice thou me, my shames, me shames with my ligate? I don't know how to pronounce that. For I am naked, as me think.
Alas, Adam, right so am I.
And for sorrow, sir, why nay might we sink, for we have grieved God Almighty that made me man, broken his bidding bitterly. Alas, that ever it began, this work eve, hast thou wrought and made this bad bargain.
Nay, Adam, whip me not.
Do we leafy wame then?
The worm, to wit, will worthy were, with tales untrue he me betrayed.
Alas, that I led to thy lair, or trout the truthfuls that thou me said. So may I bide, for I may ban that bitter braid and dreary deed that I did. Our shape for dull me deeps, wherewith they shall be hid.
Let us take their fig leaves, sithen it is us betid.
Right as thou sayest, so it shall be, for we are naked and all bare. Full wonder fain I would hide me from my lord's sight, and I wist where I need wrought.
Adam,
Lord?
where art thou? Where?
I hear thee, Lord, and says thee not.
Yea, whereon is it long, this work? Why hast thou wrought?
Lord, Eve got me do wrong, and to that bring me brought.
Yea, Eve, why hast thou got they make eat fruit I bade they should hing still, and commanded none of it to take?
A worm, Lord, enticed me thereto, so well away that ever I did that deed so dill.
A wicked worm, woe worth thee I, for thou on this manner hast made them swilk for I. Mine malison have thou here with all the might I may. And on their womb then shalt thou glide, and be I full of enmity. to all mankind on ilky side, and earth it shall thy sustenance be to eat and drink. Adam and Eve also, ye in earth then shall ye sweat and swink, and travail for your food.
Alas, when might we think we have soul world, we that have soul worlds good, full dearthly may us think.
Now, Cherabyn, mine angel bright, to Middle Earth tide go drive there too.
Angel. God has given you a commandment.
Already, Lord, as it is right, sin thy will is that it be so, and to thy liking. Adam and Eve, do you to go, for here may ye make no dwelling. Go ye forth fast to fare, of sorrow may ye sing.
Alas, for sorrow and care our hands may we wring.
And there ends that particular pageant, and yet the next pageant is handed the baton so firmly into the next episode. It's like, oh, what's the angel going to do to drive them out? Oh, it's going to go, Lord, Eve got me do wrong. So Eve's fault. And then Eve, oh, it's a worm. Worm did it. Yes. Thoughts in the room? Remember, these are two separate plays that we've looked at, even though I ran them into each other. So we don't forget the Tree of Knowledge, the introduction to which was don't eat from the tree. Don't touch the tree. Yeah, should have put a fence round. Should have put an angel with a burning sword around it. You should have done that, shouldn't you? Shouldn't you? You do afterwards. Yeah, you protect it afterwards. If you'd just done that in the first place, yeah, basic health, health and safety. Rachael.
No, what you just said about the tree, I was just going to say an angel with a flaming sword. Is he going to burn down the tree or something like that? No, that's not. My real thing that I was wanted to say was just the parts with the tree that are coming up. All of this garden is open to you except this tree is very Bluebeard like. Here's this whole house. If you walk into that room, I'll murder you. And then the parts with the devil coming in towards the end of this last one, and the getting kicked out and Eve. It reminds me of like Albrecht Dürer, his engravings and his apprentices. I forget the name of his apprentice, but he also did a lot of stuff with Eve, and it's like a lot of this scene.
Yeah, I mean this material turns up everywhere. There is literally God does set up an angel with a flaming sword afterwards, so that it's a whole thing to do with power. You see, if you eat from the tree of knowledge and from and also the tree of life, I mean, that he's setting up flaming swords around all the trees because he doesn't want mankind becoming all powerful. God's driving himself based on fear, basically, because he's let all the toys out of the pram. Sorry. I don't think this turns up in the story. Anyway, that we see here. Stephen.
Well, yeah, however, that does kind of link to what I was going to say, which is, until I this is one of the ones that they did in York, and it was actually really funny. And I'm sort of trying to, you had to have been there, I suppose, but, it's a sort of, God is going, are you stupid? Are you that stupid? It's a kind of Basil Fawlty and Manuel sort of scenario. But the way they did it was brilliant because God was like a 12-year-old girl. And Adam and Eve were their slightly gormless, clueless sort of 14-year-old brother and sister who'd been explicitly told not to play with her toy. And they'd gone and done it. That kind of tone of exasperation that you can get from certain kind of little girls, And it was absolutely brilliant. So strange as it may seem, it is actually it can be quite funny, just because what they've done is so sort of Hanna-Barbera dumb.
Yeah, and we're really starting to get that sense of a scene that you can play, in that sense of we've got Satan and Eve, we've got we've got relationships now, because we have enough characters on stage who are continuous, and not just sort of angel, random people.
Well, we did have a very brief character relationship between God and Satan. He's like, which again, I trust you and make you brilliant, and you have to obey me. God doesn't have the greatest track record with these things so far. He's like 0 for 2.
Yeah, and it's interesting in the Chester cycle, the explicitness of the game that is played twice, of don't sit in my chair in the first one, and then don't eat off the tree, and it's like, dude, do you not learn from your basic mistakes here? And it's really interesting it's interesting that the worm doesn't get any response here. The Satan just goes onto his belly and glides off. But the worm does seem to be quite worm-like at the beginning of this. Sometimes the worm is depicted as having feathers and being, sort of this bright, colourful creature that is transformed at this moment.
There is a linguistic thing as well, because worm would have been, at some point, would have meant just vaguely serpent, reptile, dragon, monster, horrible thing in general. But what I found interesting is, not only does he not get a response, he doesn't get punished. Right? The whole thing is, don't do the thing. Okay, you did the thing. Why did you do the thing? Because the woman told me. Because the snake told me. Oh, you guys are idiots. Right. You're getting kicked out.
He does punish the worm, though. He curses the worm and tells him to crawl on his womb forever and eat earth.
Okay, I must have just missed that.
Well,
entirely.
it seems as though God. It's an ambiguous speech, and it seems as though God is talking to Eve. But I think God delivers that first part of the speech to the worm. A wicked worm, woe worth thee, I.
Yeah, the worm doesn't say anything back, presumably, because all it can say is from this point onwards, because its wormness has come into play. Stephen?
It was just Liza's point, really. I mean, a worm could be all sorts of things, but there is a second fall, which is, it could be sort of a resplendent dragon or something like that. And it's like, right, from now on, you're just going to be slithering around on your belly, and all you can do is eat dust. So we could still have some kind of magnificence, as part of the visuals, perhaps.
Well, I say in other texts you do have references to the worm having feathers and being this quite spectacular thing.
You get that in art too. You, especially sort of medieval through early modern art, you get the serpent having a serpent's tail, but like a human-looking torso and face, and kind of twining around the tree, sometimes wearing a little crown for being Lucifer, something like that.
Lucifer would expect. I'd expect bling on Lucifer. I'd expect no less. Rachael, and then we will move on to play 6 of this session.
No, I was just gonna say that I just wrote it in chat, but for the video, Durer's apprentice was named Hans Baldung Grien. He really liked to depict the that fall scene, right, specifically in the garden. So I don't know, there's that imagery just lines up with the last section pretty nice.
So let's, with that, dive into play 6, and it's the craft of the armourers for this play, as some expulsion is going on. We left the last play with the angel sort of saying, "Oi, Adam and Eve, get out," and Adam being very sad. Here we effectively pick up the thread. Angel, take it away.
All creatures to me take tent. Fro God of heaven, now am I sent unto the wretches that wrong has went themself to woo. The joy of heaven that to them was lent is lost them fro. Fro them is lost both game and glee. He bade that they should masters be over all kin thing, out ta'en a tree. He taught them till, and thereto went both she and he again his will. Against his will thus have they wrought. To grief, great God, gave they right naught. That weal wit ye, and therefore sit is to them sought. And ye shall see the fools that faith is fallen fra. Take tent to me now, or ye ga, fro God of heaven unto you twa, sent am I now for to warn you what kinwa is wrought for you.
For us is wrought so well away, dull endurance night and day. The wealth we wend have wand in eye is lost us fra. For this mischief we may ever mourning ma. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, I'm muted. Angel is muted.
Adam, thyself made all this sit, for to the tree thou went full tight, and boldly on the fruit gan bite, my lord forbade.
Yeah, alas, my wife, that I may white for scomy bread.
Adam, for thou trowed her tale. He sent thee word, and says thou shall live, I in sorrow abide, and be in bitter bale, till he thee borrow.
Alas, wretches, what have we wrought? To bigly bliss we both were brought, whilst we were here. We had enow, now we have naught. Alas for care.
Our cares are common both kin and cold, with fell foundings manyfold. Alas, that tyrant to me told throughout his guile that we should have all wealths in wold. Woe worth the while.
That while ye wrought unwittingly, so for to grieve God Almighty, and that mon ye full dear aby, or that ye ga, and to live as is worthy in were and wa. Adam, have this, look how ye think, until with all thy meat and drink for evermore.
Alas, for sight, why might I sink? So shames me sore.
Sore may we shame with sorrows sear, and felly fare we both in fear. Alas, that ever we nighed it near that tree until, with dole now mun we buy full dear our deed is ill.
Give, for thou bist wicked him swa. Travel here too shall thou ta, thy bairns to bear with mickle wa. This warn I thee, buxom shall thou and other ma to man I be.
Alas, for dole what shall I do? Now mun I never have rest ne rue.
Nay, lo, swilk a toll is taking me too to travail tight. Now is shent both I and true. Alas for sight. Alas for sight, and so sad morning makes me maced and had to think in heart what help I had and now has none. On ground when I never go glad, my games are gain. Gone are my games without in glee. Alas, in bliss couth we not be. For put it we were to great plenty at the prime of the day, be time of none, all lost had we. So well away for hard pain. All beasts were to my bidding bane. Fish and fowl they were profane with me to found. And now is all thing me again, that goes on ground ungainly may I gang to suffer sit and pains strange. All is for deed that I have done wrang. Through wicked wile on live methinketh I live too long, alas the while. Oh Lord, I think what thing this that me is ordained for my miss. If I work wrong, whom should me wish be anyway? How best will be, so have I bliss, I shall say. Alas for bale, what may this be? In world unwisely wrought have we. This earth it trembles for this tree and dines like Dine's ilk dale. All this world is wroth with me, this what I will. Full weal I wote my wealth is gone. Earth elements ever ill came. From my sin has sorrow ta'en. This weal I see was never wretches, so will of wane as now are we.
We are full well worthy, wis, to have this mischief for our miss, for brought we were to bigly bliss ever in to be. Now my sad sorrow certes is this, myself to see.
To see it is a sideful side. We both that were in bliss so bright, we mun go naked every ilka night, and days biden. Alas, what woman's wit was light, that was weel sense.
Sithen it was so, me night it sore, but sin that woman witless were, man's mastery should have been more against the guilt.
Nay, and my speech thou would thou never spare, that has us spilt.
If I had spoken you ought to spill, you should have taken good tent theretil, and turned my thought.
To weigh woman and name it not, for at my bidding would thou not be, and therefore my woe I white eye thee. Through ill counsel thus casten are we in bitter bale. Now God late never man after me, trist woman tale, for certes me ruse full sere that ever I should learn at thy lair. Thy counsel has castened me in care that thou me ken.
Be still, Adam, and namen it nae mair, it may not mend. For well I wot I have done wrong, and therefore ever I mourn among.
Alas, the while I leave so long, dead would I be on ground, won I never glad gang withouten glee. Withouten glee I gar, without this sorrow will me sly. This tree unto me I will take, that me is send. He that us wrought with us for where some we wend.
And thus ends that cheerful story of Adam and Eve's expulsion there. Just really laying into some of those patriarchal assumptions that this entire mythology is based on. Now, God, let never man after me trust woman's tale.
Yeah, there was
there's the moral
there was
of the
some of
story
that
there.
in the previous play too, where Adam was like, well, my wife said it was a good idea, and God was like, well, you believed her, so you're cursed. So again, it's patriarchy all the way down, especially in this past play. The angel, as sort of, it feels almost like an afterthought. The angel curses Eve with the pains of childbirth, and then the last two lines of that speech is, yeah, buxom shall thou and other mo to man I be. So, you know, you and other more women shall now be obedient to men. And it's just like, what? You know, I all I did was eat a piece of goddamn fruit.
Yeah, and that's one that
Vegetarianism is evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Alexandra.
contribute to that, that's precisely the argument that Lucifer makes earlier on when they've just been thrown into hell and the other devil says, you got us into this situation, and then Lucifer is going, all I did was speak my mind. Yeah, this is as you said, this is a really good lesson in bad management. You know, I feel like that's what we're getting out of this. But yes, it's interesting that with our modern sensibilities, of course, we look at this and go, that feels terribly unfair. But with the context of, you know, these being the stories of the Bible, and these being the things that you know, as people watching the pageant go past, we would know all the, you know, what they are about and what they mean, but we wouldn't get a chance to necessarily encounter the stories in our own vernacular as in an ecclesiastical sense. So we're getting them dramatically presented, and it's fascinating. I think in that respect, it's really interesting. I'm finding that very interesting.
Other thoughts? Eric, then Stephen.
I find it interesting that it's kind of, I mean, like, because, okay, I didn't really get half of what I was saying, but anyway, it was like, there's some sections that sound almost like he's gaining momentum, especially during Adam's speech, where he goes, "So well away" is the end of a sentence, and then the next bit is "so well away for hard pain," and it's like sort of, or almost like a sermon, kind of, or a song.
Well, "well away" is a sort of generic cry of "woe is me." It's so it's maybe more punctuation in sort of a more sound sense of
yes. It's sort of one step up from "alas," isn't it?
Yeah.
"Alas" being only 2 syllables, "well away" being 3.
It's just interesting that he uses it for the repetition, like sort of at the end of the sentence and at the beginning of the sentence for the next bit, and then kind of, I don't know, just
yeah, he really goes off on one, whereas Eve is much more pointed and to the point. I like Eve's concision to a degree, because when she does speak, she makes some good points occasionally. I'm annoyed that she folds at the end.
Well, she just got cursed with patriarchy. She's had kind of a bad day.
Yeah, Stephen, muted at present.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of add to Alexandra's point, the Reformation got rid of all the visuals, in a sense. That we have carvings, we have wall paintings, all of these things, at best get covered up, at worst get destroyed. And even someone like, a lot of the medieval stained glass survives in York, and so people may have been able to read those pictures and get it that way, even if the preaching is in, as it were, a foreign language. So it's there was this kind of cultural revolution where all of this stuff was kind of lost to us, and the difference between these sort of bare Protestant churches and some of churches in Christian churches in other parts of the world where there's continuity. One of the biggest differences is the visual enrichment.
We need, however, to move on to our final pageant. There is a not insignificant break in this text, which I will briefly pause at just to note. It's in your scripts as just ... in square brackets. So this play is shorter than it should be, and we'll assess how much shorter. So play 7, and this is The Craft of Glovers. And we open with an angel.
The Lord of Life, Lele Al-Stand, whose might unmeasured is to main. He shop the sun, both sea and sand, and wrought this world with word, I ween. His angel clear as crystal clean, here unto you thus am I sent, this tide. Abel and Cain, ye both biden, to me enterly takes intent, to move my message have I meant, if that ye bide. Almighty God of mights most, when he had wrought this world so wide, nothing him thought was wrought in waste, but in his blessing bound to bide. 9 orders for to tell that tide of angels bright he bade there be, for pride and sown the 10th part it was tried and went away, as was worthy. They held to hell all that main, therein to bide. Then made he man to his likeness, that place of price for to restore, and sithen he kid him such kindness, somewhat will he work therefore. The 10th to tine he asks no more, of all the goodness he haves you sent, full true. To offer look that ye be your, and to my tale ye take intent, for ilka lead that life has lent, so shall you ensue.
Gramercy, God of thy goodness, that me on mold has marked thy man. I worship thee with worthiness, with all the comfort that I can. Me for to were for works when for to fulfill thy commandment, the taint of all the good sin I began. Thou shalt have sin thou is sent. Come, brother Cain, I would we went with heart full hand.
Wait, Whither now in wild Wanand? Trowest thou think to truss off town? Go jape thee, Robert Jangeland, me list not now to rock nor round.
Dear brother, let us be bound, God's bidding blithe to fulfill, I tell thee.
Yea, dance in the devil way, dress thee down, for I will work even as I will. What mistress thee in good or ill of me to mell thee?
To mell of thee mildly I may, but good brother, go we in haste. Give God our tained duty this day. He bids us thus, be not abased.
Yet devil me thinketh that work were waste, that he us gave, give him again to see? Now fickle friendship for to frast, me thinketh there is in him certain. If he be most in might and main, what need has he?
He has none need unto thy good, but it will please him principle if thou, mildly in main and mood, grouch not give him 10 part.
And there we have a break in the text of 2 whole pages. So Cain and Abel arguing about whether they should give any offerings to God. And sadly we leap ahead and we have on stage an angel, a chap called Brewbarret, and Cain.
It shall be done even as ye bid, and that anon.
Law, Master Cain, what shaves bring I, even of the best for to bear said, and to the field I will me hie to fetch you more if ye have need.
Come up, sir knave, the devil thee speed. You will not come, but ye be prayed.
Oh, Master Cain, I have broken my toe.
Come up, sir, for by my thrift ye shall drink or ye go.
Thou cursed Cain, where is Abel? Where hast thou done thy brother, dear?
What ask'st thou me that tale to tell? For yet his keeper I was ne'er.
God has sent thee his curse down, fro heaven to hell, maledictio Dei.
Take that thyself, even on thy crown. Quia nun sum custos fratris mei, to teen.
God has sent thee his malison, and inwardly I give thee mine.
Same curse light on thy crown, and right so might it worth and be, for he that sent that greeting down, the devil might speed both him and thee. Foul might thou fall. Here's a cankered company, therefore God's curse light on ye all.
What hast thou done? Behold and hear. The voice of his blood crieth vengeance fro earth to heaven. With voice enter this tide, that God is grieved with thy grievance. Take heed. I shall tell thee, Tidandus, therefore abide. Thou shalt be cursed upon the ground. God has given thee his malison. If thou wilt till the earth so round, no fruit to thee there shall be found. Of wickedness sin thou art son. Thou shalt be wafering here and there this day. In bitter bale now art thou bound. Outcasten shall thou be for care. No man shall rue of thy misfare for this array.
Alas, for sith thus may I say, my sin it passeth all mercy. For asketh thee, Lord, I ne may, to have it am I not worthy. From thee I shall be hid in high. Thou cast'st me, Lord, out of my kith in land. Both here and there outcast am I, for ilka man that meets me with, they will slay me by fen or firth, with dint of hand.
Nay, Cain, not so, have thou no dread. Who that thee slays shall punished be. 7 sithis for doing of that deed. For thee a token shall thou see. It shall be printed so in thee, that ilka man shall thee know full well.
Then will I farther flee, for shame. Sithen I am set thus out of sail, the curse that I have for to fail, I give you the same.
Exit Cain. It's very, very difficult to get a handle on this play, just simply because we have the middle of it completely missing, which is a real shame. It's a sad way to close it, but every so often, think it's a miracle that the document survives at all. Yes, it's we get that sense of God was telling the angel to come down and deal with Cain at the beginning of the after the break. God doesn't do it himself directly, which is, in others you do have God turning up and going, "Oi, Cain, where's Abel?" That this is subcontracted out to angels. Yeah, Liza.
Well, I find this really interesting because the little we have of Brewbarret, it seems very much as though that's a clown part, and this would be maybe the first clown we have, possibly in this series. Everything God forgot to create clowns in the first 7 days, so we had to wait a bit. The other thing is that Cain breaks the fourth wall in the same way that we're accustomed to Herod doing in the later plays, that he's cursed by God, and he looks out at the audience and insults them and curses them back.
I was wondering, did Satan or Lucifer did similar things slightly earlier? I forget. There were a couple of ambiguous lines that felt they could be played out.
Yeah, it's certainly possible.
Yes, it's what the evil people do. I mean, obviously everyone speechifies out to every so often they want to make a sermon.
Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, go on.
The other interesting thing, sorry, I'm talking a lot and I will shut up at some point soon, but not right now.
Nobody's waving. Nobody's waving, so, carry on.
Well, wave away, but it's interesting that from the fall onwards, God doesn't talk to us anymore. Only the angel does. The angel takes over that role as intermediary. And what's interesting to me about that is that in the Townley cycle, I know that God sticks around at least for Cain and Abel. God, you still have God as a character walking around talking to humans, and in fact you have in Townley, when God calls to Cain after the murder, you have Cain saying, "Who is that hob over the wall?" So that's going to be fun to contrast.
Yeah, I mean, God will return. Spoilers, people. There will be some more God almost immediately, because God does actually have a direct telephone link to Noah. Assuming that we do continue going sequentially, whether we have, for pragmatic reasons, to jump ahead a bit and then dance back a bit and things, which I'm hoping not to do. Other thoughts about the sequence overall, as well as this play, as you wish, Stephen?
It was just this last play, really. I just really love the language in it. It's really simple, but it's beautifully effective. There are points in this where you're just kind of scratching your head, aren't you? I mean, it's because of the distance in time. I didn't get that feeling at all with this. It was really easy for me to follow it. It seemed so much clearer than some of the other things we've been looking at. I don't know, it's perhaps purely subjective, but it does seem to me to be really, really simple language to get this over clearly. It is a sort of primal story, isn't it? And I'm thinking of the difference between this and sort of Abraham and Isaac, which is much, much more sort of, there's much more theology involved in it. And there's not quite as much of the sort of terrible primal family thing, but it seems to me that the language here is just absolutely brilliant for that.
And it's a really interesting technical point about the language you use for what is effectively street theatre. Where, yes, some of the stations you're going to have, the architecture of the buildings around you are going to be really helpful, and you're definitely going to be able to be heard. But some of those stations, that may not be the case. And you have to construct your dialogue in a way that it can be heard, and also that there's enough repetition so that if you miss a line or something, that the data is being transferred in a way that works. And it's really interesting contrasting this with what we've been doing in the afternoon, which is a play that's earlier, Castle of Perseverance, but which is designed to be played in a much bigger sort of space where you may not have any kind of vocal support from buildings around you, and it's all, here is a speech that gives you information, here is a speech that gives you information. Here we have dialogue, this is genuine dialogue with different length lines, and yes, there is a verse structure that's going on through it, but it's shared out in ways that are doing different jobs, and it's a really difficult challenge making these plays work, because you can't do too much cleverness, as it were. We're talking about it being simple language. It's got to be direct. It's got to land. And it's got to be effective and affecting as well. They're doing a good job here. But I think that's partly to do with the potentially the ability to do that in a very, very well established cycle like this, which perhaps has been worked over time. Alexandra, then Rachael.
Yeah, just adding to your point, Robert, I think part of it is the fact that if this happens in the same way every year and it's done by the same people on the same floats, etc., then, as an audience, if you miss a little bit right now, you'll at least recognize it because you know the story, or, you'll catch it next time. I'm wondering, for the purposes of putting something like this on, as a modern production where the language becomes an impediment, how much you can get around that with illustrativeness, as we were talking about earlier, or how much that might be actually an impediment to understanding the language, because you're focusing on the visuals and therefore you can't concentrate on the text.
And it is a question that actually this is one of those texts where there is a relatively good performance history in modern times, a lot of which is and which different approaches have been tried. So for a more pure textual position through to extreme adaptation. So I mean, it's an excellent question, and one which actually hopefully we'll be able to give resources out to the world and share ideas, and also and also. The nice thing about short plays is, you can do a whole series of deliberately contrasty versions of the same text, and see what comes out of it, because it's not going to eat that much that many resources to do it. Rachael.
No, just as we went on, the accent. It's the accent itself, I guess, that, because I'm not familiar with the accent at all, that. As I was reading it, I wasn't sure if some of what I was saying meant what I was saying, or if those words have fallen out of speech, or if that's just the accent itself. And then I was wondering, the writers, are there different writers for each section, or is it like one person writes them all?
I wondered about that too, because there did seem to be different voices or different styles, certainly different orthography in some of them.
Yeah, there did seem to be differences. I mean, that's the thing, is we don't really know. There may have been an original cycle that was written by one person, or they may have all originally have been farmed out, then they get adjusted. Maybe they think what X play needs some reworking, and so it's a completely different hand. It's a continuum over hundreds of years. So authorship is a really difficult question to answer. But the thing about the accent, I think, is really important. Actually being able to use a comparable regional accent. I mean, ideally, you wanted to go for pure Yorkshire. Especially with a text like this, does help, because some of the problems with trying to modernise any of the languages, in fact, you start ironing out the accent, because there are accent clues in the original spelling. And it's not necessarily that you're changing the words, you're just changing the dialect form of how it was written out, because a lot of these words are not actually unmodern words, they're just written in a slightly weird way. And that's actually the other thing, is actually saying wanting to start actually from first principles of the text as it's originally written, and having the time to rehearse with people with the correct accents, and really, or at least the modern version of the correct accent, and really enjoy it, because it makes a huge difference. And I do think we had that with N Town, actually, when we started reading that yonks ago. We had a member of the group who was doing authentic Suffolk, who's the East Anglian text, and suddenly Eve's so much more fun. Rachael.
No, that's what I was trying to say, because like how Stephen was doing the neighboring county, I guess, to Yorkshire, or Lancaster. The American accent just definitely does not fit this text, because you can lose all the meaning.
I think there may be some American accents that actually land quite well, but it's
Mine doesn't.
It's one of these things to say about early modern stuff as well, is that, you know, the accent, there are no necessarily wrong accents apart from received pronunciation, which is basically the wrong accent to be using, because it just doesn't really fit any of the text. But, you know, original pronunciation would have been a sort of more of a smorgasbord rather than a specific accent that survives to today. Eric.
I was going to go back to how this one seems a bit more dialogue-y compared to the other ones. It did feel very sort of like, you know, Abel going, yes, let's go do stuff, you know, be I don't know, prudent, diligent, go to God and whatever, sacrifice whatever we're going to sacrifice. And Cain going, who the hell is this God? Why? Sort of, you know, or, you know, the sort of obviously early modern equivalent or Middle English equivalent of that. It felt very sort of direct compared to the previous ones. I mean, obviously it was probably because the way Liza was reading it as well, but it just felt very sort of, tell God to come down here and, you know, we'll have a word now. I'll fight anybody I have to fight, whatever. It was very sort of, I don't know, Brooklyn.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Cain is the. It is a bit, isn't it? I think Cain is the first character in these plays who both doesn't care if you like him and isn't glamorous. I mean, Lucifer doesn't care whether you like him, but is inherently glamorous, even as a snake.
Oh, he's clearly a fabulous snake. And yeah. Any final thoughts from around the room of York overall? We sort of ploughed into that with abandon to see what came out of it. We may get a little more systematic in our approaches in the future, but I always like to start on a position of randomness and happenstance and see what comes out as we adjust texts and figure out a direction of travel. Any final thoughts from around the room? Alexandra, do you have anything you want to throw in about York so far?
Yes, it feels very dynamic. Sort of to echo a point of yours from earlier, it seems the language is it's interactive. You know, it's dialogue. It's we get exposition, but we interrupt this program for a sermon. You know, it feels very engaging, I think, as performances, particularly if you actually see them as short performances with a snack in between and so on. So I think even in contemporary times, they have things that we would still quite easily be drawn to. They have features that we as a modern audience we'd sort of go, oh yeah, of course, promenade theatre, yay! So yes, I'm looking forward to the rest of the numbers. Do we have the rest of the numbers?
Oh yeah, we got most of them. There are some additional gaps, but on the whole, this is a fairly complete cycle. Rachael, any final thoughts?
Now, just another question: how many are there of the York cycles?
47 plus maybe some appendices that are variations on a theme. There's a lot, nearly 50.
Cool.
The numbers vary depending on individual cycles, but yeah, they aim for that sort of number. So that's the thing. If you think about you're trying to perform this during the daytime on one day, you've got to fit 47 pageants in. You know, they can't be too long. And some of them is incredibly short. One of them wasn't even 100 lines long today. You know, some of them are really, really brief. And that gives you the opportunity to dip in and out. Rachael again, sorry. I'm talking a lot. I should stop doing that.
No, I just have so many questions about these ones. No, how Lord Mayor's shows were different every year. do they just are they just using the same ones in York every year, and are they just redoing them, or do they get rewritten every year and these are just from a specific year?
No, we think it's broadly a continuity that they tart up and adjust every so often. So there is a real continuity year in year, which creates a whole interesting question about continuity of casting, continuity of tradition. There are some exceptions, and there are some changes as it goes along. There's an awful lot of stuff about York that I do not know. I sort of know the edges of where those things I do not know live. Yeah, and you know, we've got a good 10, 11 sessions to minimum to finish York. There's a lot of York to do, so hold on to those questions, and do continue asking them, and we'll try and squeeze in, and I'll try and swat up more, and we'll try and do some more research as we go. Liza, any final thoughts?
Well, about sorry, I keep thinking about Brewbarret, who we see so little of, and I remembered that in Townley, Cain also has a comedy servant called Jack Garcio. So there may be parallels there. It might be a place where people were expecting to see a clown. And I wish we had more of that section. I keep, things do get found, less and less frequently these days, but things do get found in weird places, and I don't know, gotta keep a candle in the window, not of the Bodleian Library. You can't have a candle in there, but no fire or flame near the early medieval manuscripts, but just keeping a torch lit discreetly. Yeah,
it's probably kept in the same place they keep episode 4 of 10th Planet and all 6 episodes of Power of the Daleks. But Stephen, any final thoughts?
Not really, no. I think I've said everything I want to say.
And Eric?
Not really. I mean, it's interesting that we talked about accents and stuff. It's just I have to go study the Yorkshire accent now just to figure out how on earth to pronounce things in the next time we do this.
Yeah, it's always my terror is just going, well, I can do a generic North, but it will veer all over the place. And there is a situation. There's only so much apologising you can do in a context like this. It does help the text to flow, but I think probably for my future safety, I probably wouldn't be doing that too much. Anyway, on that note, we are going to close this particular session. We won't see, I don't think we see Cain again, sadly. He does turn up in other pageants again after Cain and Abel. You actually he is it in N-Town? I think in N-Town he actually gets killed by a blind archer. These characters sometimes turn up again, so all sorts of possibilities are available. Thanks to all the wonderful readers. Thanks to everyone. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. His blood crieth vengeance.